Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me? All right. Seeing some comments. So I assume I sound okay? Sound good. Thanks, Caldex. All right. Well, hey, happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to another edition, as you know, marking the sunroom, telling you lots and lots of stuff about Camelot Unchained, and by lots and lots of stuff, I mean a top 10ish. I mean, as well, the 90-day plan, and then obviously, and some art that just approved today, and other stuff. And then we'll have a newsletter going out. So today's one of those days where it's going to be an overload of information. So let's get started. Okay, so let me move this over and start going through the many things for CU. Number one, done. Tech, map scaling bug. So AJ fixed some issues with the scale of the CU world map on the battleground zone. So this was screwing up some map indicators such as plots, warband menu, and yourself not to show up. So that's been fixed. Done. Tech, plot factions. Christina fixed a server threading issue which was manifesting itself by sometimes causing plots in the battleground zone to lose track of what faction they should be. You know, senility among plots is just not a good idea. Number three, done. Tech and art, building lighting issues. Updated cube buildings from the amazing Builders Brigade that now have added lighting fixtures, as well as updates to the keeps themselves. Number four, done. Tech and design, fixes to portals. Both fixed some issues with our world editor that were preventing us from setting up new zone portals. Ben made quick use of this fix by adding new portals from the home islands to the battleground zone and back. Number six, done. Tech and design, RVR scenario as a zone. Ben set up the background scenario. Oh, this is the Department of Redundancy Department warning coming up. Ben set up the battleground scenario to no longer require a scenario. Yeah, let me read that again. Ben set up the battleground scenario to no longer require a scenario. So, like I said, I will be editing that. But what it means, which is the important thing, is that you don't have to queue up to go there. Number six, done. Text, status persistence. For statuses which persist, but sorry, I just came off an hour interview with old character. So, check it out when it comes up. For statuses which persist between logins, respawns, and zone transitions, we keep track of the time they are meant to run and expire. So, now they will actually do that. Number seven, work in progress, tech, player scale support. No, we don't care what you weigh in real life, and we're not sending you scales. But what it does mean is that we now have a scale modifier which allows us to be bigger or smaller than the default sizes. Now, why would we possibly need that? Hey, maybe the next item will tell us. Work in progress, tech, design, and art. Giants. As a team, we've created a detailed plan for how we're going to tackle the new playable CU Giants over the next milestone, not the next 90 days. May take that long, but immediate work on the next milestone. Chris has already begun work putting together the design elements of the Giants, such as their banes and boons. Number 9, tech done. Don't you like how I get to say done a lot? Bug fixes to UI. Boone's hover Boone's hover tooltip used in character creation appear to have existed in wrong layer. Okay, there's a number of things in this which will just say, hey, a whole bunch of bug fixes to the UI. You can read it later because we got a lot to talk about. 10, work in progress, UI art, CU HUD reimagination. So Mr. Koo has completed his first pass of concept for the HUD UI reimagination and has moved on to the inventory reimagination. And a reminder for some of you folks who saw my last live stream, some of these items, of course, were covered in that as well because it was a mid-month update. So number 11, work in progress, Tech Cube. Brian has been testing the newly created plot and zone import functionality that Matt built for offline building mode. So this is what I talked about as well, bringing in old imports. 12, done, tech, remote config. For a long time, each of our game server zones has had a little text file that lived on its hard drive that encompassed all of its configuration. You know, little text file that could. They were curated by hand and updated manually. So now we've just set it up so it's easier. Work in progress, art, scenario defender, NPCs. Keyboards currently are all modeled, being rigged and animated, are all modeled, period. They're also being rigged and animated currently. Tower Champions have completed concept stages and are speeding along the modeling pipeline. Number 14, work in progress, art, craft the barricades and traps. Traps have been completed as well as the majority of barricades and implemented, while the last of the stone and leather barricades finish modeling. Number 15, work in progress, art environment. Along with a lot of teamwork, work with the awesome folks over in tech, we've been working on new assets and implementation standards to support a heavy focus on performance. Okay. Bottom line with this, a lot of words. So I've been talking about this for now a number of months. The art team followed my wishes and, you know, greatly expanded the stuff in CU. That, as you know, produced some issues in terms of rendering and performance, and we've been working to ferret those out, and that's a continued process. So the environment looks way better than it did a few months ago, and it will continue to get better, and we've also been improving performance. Number 16, done, art, animation, audits and fixes. Animation audits for all races has been ongoing, fixing capes, skirts, locomotion, and vanishing items from players' hands. Yeah, I hit that one the other day. Number 17, work in progress, art, animation, wyvern. Animation has been started for the wyverns. The wyvern's role in this game is to, well, at least for now, to fly over keeps and let you know what's going on. Kind of nice visual, too. And what a good way to convey information. Work in progress, VFX. Cross has been hard at work with continued work on devout class ability VFX, alongside other improvements in, you know, our particles. In our effects. Number 19, done, tech, rendering performance. AOIT layer tuning. Now, did some shader work to collapse together the layers for AOIT. This cuts CPU memory bandwidth requirements for rendering transparent objects in half. Hang on. Obviously, I need to hydrate. Now, why is this a big deal? And it's a very big deal. So one of the things that I've been spending a lot of time on is being, as usual, a guinea pig for testing. And this machine at home isn't as powerful as the one at work. And so, which is good, because it allows me, you know, to see what some of you players obviously have been going through with the last few versions. And so one of the things we found is that, you know, a particle of the AOIT system on either older cards or just cards in general was eating up too much memory bandwidth. And so, you know, changes were made and performance has improved. So that also goes to the next item, number 20, done, tech. rendering performance and pasta qualities. So that's a big deal. As you know, we've talked about that before. Imposters are what allows games like ours, which render out a long way away, to still maintain decent performance. And getting the imposters' quality to look good, and also to have them log properly, and not go from something. Hey, it looks like this. 30 feet out, but at 20 feet out, it looks like this. So we've done a lot of work on that, and mainly, well, not only on the look, but on the performance, because that is really important. I mean, this is one reason why most engines cull stuff. We've all played MMOs or even regular games where you see things being culled out or blocked so you can't see. Our engine is, like I used this phrase before, on a clear day, you can see forever. And that's pretty true. And the only way you can do that, on a normal card is you just have to make sure that the performance is up to where it needs to be. And so that's what we've been doing. Number 21, done. Tech, rendering performance, imposter speed. So that's a follow-up to number 20. Number 22, done. Tech, rendering performance, concurrent sorting. So there's a section of code that groups together all the renderable objects on the CPU onto the CPU into an optimal drawing order on the GPU. This code takes significantly better advantage of multiple CPU cores, which improves performance on multi-core machines. So why is this a big deal? Just like the other things, it allows us to use what you have on your PC to make it easier on your GPU. And especially now with the kind of cores on the average machine being sold today, or even last generation, I've always said our engine is parasitic. Well, we found a way to make more use of your CPU. And for those who've been watching the data, on their cards or their CPUs, we tended to be, always at the edge of GPU, use, but not as much on the CPU side. So now we're going to use more of it. Number 23, done. Tech, client stalls and hangs. Worked around a deep bug in our low-level threading library, which could occasionally cause stalls on the client. Sometimes these would last a few milliseconds within a frame, so fixing them improves the consistency of our frame rate. But in the worst case, they would appear as a permanent hang. That's also a big deal. As you folks know who've been playing, in the CU tests, you saw, and we got reports from the last test, the micro stutters. Things that people, like me, I had an absolute hang. But people were just going, yeah, it's really good, and then it kind of goes like this. And so, yeah, we have been, as Scott Florence just said, he of the Builders Brigade, it's quite, the top 10-ish. A ton of stuff done, more on the way. It's not in here directly. I don't know, I didn't miss it. So for your AMD guys, I mean, one of the things we've been hearing from AMD guys is please show us some love, and we couldn't agree more. So as I promised in the last test, when I was asked about it, I told you guys I would make sure that we got somebody on it, and that's exactly what we did. So we've been working on that. We've been working on other things that are really good in terms of GPUs, things that will, like, good example. Right now, when you come into the game, we don't do anything special in terms of looking at your card and tailoring things based on your card. We are going to automate that. We're going to immediately, you can always override it, but we're going to do some things that if we see you coming on an older card, we can automatically scale things down, make some changes. Again, you can always override it, but that is something that was necessary, so that is also being worked on. Phew! Okay, so that's the top 20-ish, for today. So fixed building texture warping. Okay. Thank you, Scott. If you want to write something up, I will put this in. So yeah, again, great top 20-ish. We got a lot done this month. As always, it's not easy under these circumstances. But hey, we are getting the job done. All right, so let me have a 2-minute break. Not it's fully 2 minutes, but I want to drink something and let my voice sort of unhorse itself. No, anyway. Like I said, just had an hour-long interview before this. So yeah, I'll take a couple questions. That's a great idea. David, in terms of any issues with new CPUs or GPUs, no. We're not expecting anything different than any other developer. Right now, for example, on the CPU side, if somebody comes out like AMD does with new versions, we just handle it. In terms of the GPU, as long as we don't do anything really weird, we'll be just fine with the new GPUs as well. Eric, any plans on integrating through Stadia? Not at the present time. I actually had a couple conversations with the Stadia people, so no, nothing right now. Caldex, she said we're getting the 90-day plan today, right? Yeah, I'm gonna talk about some of it now. That's why I need a little break. Mia Tales, public gameplay streaming and videos is an important milestone. I chuckle because that was the one of the last questions the interviewer, Dennis, asked me. So yes, the answer is yes, we're going to be doing it. A few things we want to nail down, especially the 24x3 server, and then we'll start streaming. Scott Florence, how have I been? Fine. I mean, look, living in COVID world, Corona world, living in this crazed time we live in on the health side is just not fun. It's not fun for anybody. But, fortunately, all my friends and family, folks at the studio have come through it, even some who've had it. So we're keeping fingers crossed. Unfortunately, we're watching the madness in the U.S. in terms of the case numbers. I don't want to get started on that because I will rant. I will absolutely rant epically on, on COVID. And I hope we all can come through this. But other than that, I'm fine. Force Chaos, what's the best thing you've watched during this mess on Netflix? Yes, I have Netflix. What is the best thing that I've watched? I don't know. I'm starting to get a fondness for Perry Mason because it, just saw 2 episodes because it isn't what you expect. I mean, when I first heard they were doing that, I was like, wow, I didn't even watch the show when I was young. But they've taken a totally different tack on Perry Mason. And since it has one of some of my favorite actors, I forget his name, unfortunately, sorry, from The Americans, he's in it. And so far, a little slow so far, but really enjoyed. They set the mood beautifully. And this is, it's not quite noir-ish. Well, it's not as noir as I'd like it, but it has a nice feel. Scott, is the intent for player plots on release to have predefined plot sizes or area sizes for which an owner can define a width and length? They have to be preset. We have to divide the world. We can't just allow, people to go and take any size plot. Plus, by allocating plots ahead of time, we can make sure that we don't have anything that's too weird. And so, the plan currently is that, the plots are really big, whatever size they will end up, and you only get allocated part of it, and then you have to earn the rest of it. Jazzy, I'm happy to hear about the AMD stuff, and same David, great. I said we would do it, and, work proceeds. Caldex, that's a longer question, so I am going to skip it for now, but ask me in the Q&A and we can talk about that. Force Chaos just watched episode 2 today, yeah. Yeah, isn't it very different? Very different. Yeah, Strike, you missed. We're talking about Perry Mason. We just signed the deal, with HBO, and we're making an MMO out of it. So, uh, hopefully you'll be with that. Yeah, you missed. What you missed was the top 20-ish. Obviously, that will be in the update going out later. Lots of good stuff, lots of tech stuff, lots of game stuff, lots of art stuff. So before we move on to the 90-day plan, let me pull up a couple cool pieces of art. We just had a concept art review. Let's see if I can do this without screwing it up. Let's see. What do I want to show you guys? So there were, right now the art team, besides doing all the great stuff they've been doing, they get a few spare moments, not a lot, to concept some things out and really have a little bit of fun. And so we just had a review, and the art team led, in this case, these efforts led by Kara are really cool and outstanding. And so I want to see how to share. There we go. Okay, so I'll do that in a moment. That's what I thought. Okay, so which one to show? So I'm going to say some names. Wait for me to finish the names, and then you can pick two. And I'm going to let this be up to you. So, number one, places of interest. So everything in this list, yes, are places of interest. This is the idea, show them all. No, me Fox. Got to say something for the update in the newsletter. These are all things that we want to do is for, what's going to come next, what's going to make the game feel more iconic. So, number one, coastal lowlands. Number two, Eldar hawthorn tree. Number three, failing nesting homes. Number four, mystic hive. Number five, royal mushroom ring. Number six, standing stones. Number seven, trees of the failed hero. And then the last one, Valley of the Babuin Sith. So, first, pick a number from 1 to 7. Don't make it easy on me. Just do one at a time. For the first one, pick a number 1 through 7, and I will show it. Okay, looks like number 7. So that would be, give me a second, let me get it up and on that right screen and not the wrong screen. Okay, if I've done this right, you should. Hey, it looks like it worked. Does everyone see it? That was number 8. Oops. Well, I'll put that on as bonus. So you're going to get 3 instead of 2. So I will read you the dialogue because I don't know if you can read it well that she wrote. This is definitely not written by me. It's better. It said within the verdant forests, one might come across a tranquil valley holding within it a discarded keep. Beware all those who enter, as within these remnants of the past linger a foe that will drain you body and soul. It said the creatures that lurk here have a seductive appearance despite the horns and cloven feet, and should you see them, they will attempt to slay those looking for lost treasures and precious materials. So yes, Scott, you're absolutely correct. She did great. All right, now I'll put up number 7. Okay, there's number 7. Trees of the Fallen Heroes. Death and decay linger here and nothing will grow. Only a dark, creeping rot remains. Among the debris, everything from armor and the bones of the dead to husks of trees filled with weapons of those who failed their quest. It's said in a grove such as this that a questing beast lurks. Hear that, Arthurians? Questing beast. Are ready to fell the next crusader attempting to make a name for themselves. These locations are known to many who study the fables, and warning posts have been created around those hallowed spots, advising those to stay away if a quest is not what they seek. Yeah, isn't that nice? I know, Vocal Bunny, right? All right, so for the last one, pick a number from 1, press F5, okay? I don't know, it looks close to me, 3 or 4s. All right, let's go with number 4, the Mystic Hive. Within the thick forest that many creatures call home, you may hear a loud humming, almost like that of a song. It's then you might see trees bowed and warped with the weight of large hives of an unknown insect-like creature. All 3 factions have their own tale to tell about mystical hives among the wood. Some warn of a deadly sting, a lightweight sparking fabric, and others of the blissful honey that can be made into mead. Damn, that's good, right? She did great. I didn't actually read the words until now. When I did the art review, I just focused on the art, not all the words. Well, Herds, Magical World. No, this is from Caladex. I mean, Caladex, this is from Carrot. Yeah, I'm out in the sunroom and I'm trying to pull some AC from the living room because it's a wee bit hot. So yeah, sorry about the phone. Okay, so yeah, that's some of the art. More is going to be shown in the updates. Siphon, nice. G.I. Joe headquarters. Awesome. Uh, Funny, Spike, when you asked that question, what was my favorite? I didn't have a favorite. I love them all. And there's one, I should say, out of these, there was no one favorite. There's another one that I'll be showing you guys that I would say is a favorite. Aha, old people still use house phones. It came with the package. Plus, I think it's good to have a phone, especially here, because the cell reception here is awful. I mean, you've seen the internet. You saw it last week, right? Cut out, cut out, cut out. So at least with a house phone, if we don't have a cell phone working, then at least the house phone works. Yes, the text in the tome of knowledge, or our version therein. I couldn't agree more. And that was, really good job by her. It was excellent, absolutely excellent. Okay, let me get up the next thing we're going to talk about. Okay, next milestone, 90-day plan, etc., etc. So, number one focus, absolute biggest thing, 24/3 server. This, no matter what else we do, if we haven't gotten the 24/3 server up and running yet, I will not consider it a successful milestone. That is absolutely crucial. You folks have been patient. We've gone through a lot. We've gone through, obviously, Linuxification, ability refactor, all these things. And, we want to put the server up for you that can run all weekend without either Brian or Tim or me or somebody else constantly babysitting it. And so that's the number one focus of the 90 days. Now, there are other things which we're going to talk about, but that's crucial, absolutely crucial. We want to give it to you. We want you folks to be able to have a place that you can play on that we're running all weekend, so that almost everybody can get on at some time or another. So that's number one. Continue with this list. Obviously, as well, this in the current scenario. So we've been making some changes to it. We want to make more. We'd like to see if we can have also a smaller version of it running as well. But the idea is to take this scenario, polish it out some more, get it looking really good, playing really good, and playing really well, excuse me. And, let it be an example of, what the world's going to look like, and how's it going to feel to move around, how generally just what is going to be part of a weekend experience, on CU. And so those are the big things. Now, what does that mean other than what I just said? Well, let's focus on, some of the things that's going to be that we hope is part of the 90-day scenario. Obviously, the completed keep lords. Kind of have to have the keep lords doing their thing in order to have a completed scenario. So that's one of them. Completed, wyverns. We've talked about that. Completed traps and barricades. Also, we see traps and barricades being a very useful part, of CU. So it'd be nice to have, them in. Completed devout classes. Armored, weapons, abilities. Support classes. Support classes target warband tech. So that doesn't seem right. But yes, warbands has to be working properly. and most of the remaining NPCs for the RVR scenario. So yes, obviously we've got to have things besides the keyboards. Big one: Arthurian, TDD, Viking, Giants. Now is there something that has to be in? Unlike the 24x3, getting the Giants in isn't a must-have, only because it is something that we could have an issue with. So far, it's looking really good. We've had a very good meeting about it. We talked through the technical issues, we talked through design issues, we talked through other issues, and it's seeming really, really good. But we won't know that until we go further. Fall damage working properly. Yeah, because getting knocked off keeps and jumping off things should hurt. So we got to get that in. Knockback, and I believe the fix is in already. Knockback and channeling integration for CU characters. You guys know why we need both of those. Existing class polish. So a long time ago, I talked about the fact that we weren't going to do a lot of polishing, before we got further along. But I think we should do some now. I think it's important if we have a 24x3 server up, if we want to stream, that we put some time into polishing. So we've been doing that, and we'll do more. A cube update, obviously we've been doing that already, and we Scott? But yes, a cube update. Mesh simplifier rendering bugs. So what does that mean? I mean, that's another performance thing. One of the things that allows us to do what we do is that we, with CU, is take all, of the buildings and all the blocks and do things in order to make them perform better in terms of rendering. And that's what the mesh is supposed to do. Mesh simplifier is supposed to do. So we got to get that working beautifully. Craft a class design. So that's one of my goals. Glad you're happy, Scott. So yes, I'm going to spend some time this milestone working on the craft of class, and so will Chris. Spirit Mage designs. Well, obviously we've started. We've been talking about that. Ben's been doing work on that. More coming. Dragon's Web. Yeah, that's a big deal. The Dragon's Web, as you folks know, is an integral part of the game. It is something that I've spent a fair amount of time, thinking and writing and doing even some silly little tech over it. We will be having a full presentation about it during this 90 days, so you can better understand what it is. But, excuse me. But understand it is one of the absolute most important things when it comes to making the world feel like it is actually part of a living, breathing world. And so that's where the web is going to come in. New NPC AI behaviors, such as patrolling, right? Player loading in order, and continued work on coastal lowlands and warm forest biome combination. So, that's the CU stuff. And we've got stuff on the platform that we don't have to talk about. We can if we want, as well as some core tech that I've already talked about that we'll be continuing to work on. But in the interest of time, and the interest of saving more time for questions, I'll skip them for now, but I'll be happy to go into it if anyone really wants to know of the additional stuff. But as you can see, you can't see with the other things. The other things are much smaller in number. That the vast majority of things are all going towards gameplay. They're not going towards tech. They're not going towards even basic engine stuff. It's all fun, good gameplay things. So what do you guys think? I got a sneaking feeling that maybe I'm disconnected. So somebody type in chat, please. Oh, looks like I'm good. Hey, good. I'm good. I thought my internet went out like last time. So far, not. So what do you think about the 90 days, guys? Sound like a good 90 days? So it's already started, essentially. Officially, it goes from July to September, but we've already been doing some of that. So, Mighty Germ just got here. No idea what's happening. Well, I just went over the top 20-ish as well as our plan for the next 90 days, answered some questions in the meantime, in between rounds, and going to do some more. So, but it'll all be covered. No, spirit mages are in there. We'll see if we can get them in. If you mean a full, we'll see how the designs go and timing. Don't forget, small team, smallish team. So we have to see if we can get everything in. But we'll see. Look how much we got in already with the classes. Killiam, the 24 by 3 server, as soon as we can. We really want that up. The sooner we can get it up and leave it up, the happier I am. I mean, the nice thing, about CU is that, because we've been spending the time on tech, hopefully, I'm sure there'll be a fit in the, restart every so often. But I think we'll have 24 by 3 by the end. Sven Rage, do you see the game releasing in 2021? I'm not going to talk about dates, but you can see where we're going with this, and I really, really, really would be happy if we launched in 2021. Wayward, how more developed will the other classes be during this 90-day plan? We'll see. I mean, obviously, we want, if we're going to have a 24 by 3 server, that we intend to run not as just a test for a class. We want all the classes, to be fairly well developed. Yeah, class components. I thought that's what you meant. Strike, any chance we'll see the list again? Oh, absolutely. It's going to be in the update. Josh McGuire, yeah, Ponzi scheme. I love guys like you. Because at least you could criticize me and us on something other than a Ponzi scheme. Because Ponzi scheme is both incredibly inaccurate and just not fitting. I mean, if it was a Ponzi scheme, we'd be raising money like crazy, right? I mean, if you want to say that we're just very slow and all that, great, you're absolutely right. But a Ponzi scheme is all intended that the guys on the bottom take home money. And since I didn't take home a cent during most of the game's development, not until the investors came in, it's kind of hard to have a Ponzi scheme. So, this isn't the first time you've come in here. So, hey, if you got something, work on a better line, man. Caladex, can you elaborate on what you mean by class polishing? Are you focusing on balance, adding new components? Yes, exactly. The idea is to make the classes, again, feel more like they would be during, an initial coming into the game, whether it's the first day, first week, first month. Scott, have you had much chance to play with crafting? No, I have not. I will get back to it, I promise. The problem is, and look, I said I won't complain about Corona, and I won't. But my day is more full than when I was at the office, even though, 70 an hour or an 80-hour weeks. So I got to get back to it. I will get back to it. It's one of the reasons, obviously we hired, additional developers. Additional designers. So I can have some of my time freed up. I expect that, let me scroll up, I don't be right back. So I expect I will be getting to put in more time on that in July. Swipper, will the RVR scenario battleground help contribute to developing the main map in CU? 100%. I mean, literally 100%. So if since you've been following us, and if you've been in the tests, you've seen, number one, the great buildings by the Builders Brigade, right? Well, all those buildings and all those blocks, getting them to work properly and getting to be able to destroy them at the same time, that's all part of CU, right? We said from the beginning that the Builders Brigade is going to be building buildings, and then you guys will be building buildings or hiring them or other people to build your own buildings. So all that effort is for CU launch. Then you have the prettification, right, where we try to make it nicer. That, both good and bad, good is, hey, it looks better, bad, oh, performance went down, has taught us, and showed us, things that we can improve. So that's all going to CU. The, CU Live, CU Launch, CU Go, pick whatever, term you want to use. Then, things just as simple as the portal system, right? We need that as well. So it can go on and on and on. Everything. I mean, literally, and I'm sure there's going to be one thing, right, that I've forgotten. But literally, everything that we're doing for that scenario is going to be used in CU one way or the other. So it isn't, sort of, you can make certainly an argument with Ragnarok and CU that not everything from Ragnarok goes into CU, just as I said it wasn't. The vast majority does, but not everything. When it comes to the scenario, I mean, the whole point of the scenario was to test things, to push the engine, to give you guys a place, there we go, that you can play that will feel like CU, at launch. Daykin, will there be any Easter eggs to Darkness Falls? I know what you mean. Yes, of course, there'll be, Easter eggs to DF, I am sure, as well as other things. I mean, Ragnarok is full of them. CU will have them. I wanted some in Warhammer as well. It's nice. Always should be something. Strike, no, that's not, totally what he meant, or I don't think it's what he meant. Ponzi scheme is a very specific thing. And you can use the excuse of, well, you're only using it to develop the engine. And that would be a really funny, thing if it wasn't for the fact that we're still developing CU and Ragnarok. So it really isn't zero chance that, whatever you'd want to call this, that we were developing just the engine to sell. I mean, look at our lack of push of the engine. I mean, literally, do you see a web page dedicated to exciting you about the engine, to exciting people to license it? So, it's a silly thing to say, especially when you look at the fact that, the donations we got wouldn't have covered the development of, an engine to sell. So just somebody, being people. Okay, bit abstract from Ningolith. Could you speak about the differences between Cube now and how you envision it at the finished system? Well, you're right. It is a bit abstract. So in terms of the finished system, I think the biggest difference from what you see now is going to be the interface. That is something that, we want to spend more time. We already have spent some time, and we'll spend more time with the Builders Brigade and others on, is to how to make using this system easier and easier and easier for people. And it's the same thing for how it applies to CU. How is it that you guys can build buildings as players? How is it going to work in the real world, where if you could go into Cube and you build your building and then it comes into CU? Can you do that? Does it happen automatically? Obviously, it can't. So how's all that going to happen? In terms of any big abstract changes to Cube, I'm going to be guided certainly by more feedback, from our Builders Brigade. But I don't see anything super major changing in the sense of, well, we're going to make the block sizes even smaller to give it better definition, or a lot smaller. We could, but I don't think we're going to be doing that. Not unless we've found an even better way in terms of mesh simplification, so not to up the rendering cost. Things like, and I talked about it in the top 10ish with the fixtures. So you can put up proper lighting, in these great creations. So it's going to be a lot more stuff like that than it would be anything super big and abstract, at least right now. George Hawk, how do you envision gearing up? Craftiers, crafters. I was going to say clothiers, but let's just keep it with crafters. Yeah, almost everything comes from crafters. There will be the starting gear will not, of course, come from crafters, because you don't want somebody who's new to the game not being able to buy what he needs or starting with enough equipment to play the game. But it's all be crafting. Oh, Bumble, will there be a test this weekend? I don't know yet. I'm not saying no. We haven't hit a problem. It's just something we haven't talked about yet. Primitive progress. How does one join the Builders Brigade? You just have to be able to build, and then be willing to, work with the guys that we have already. That's really simple. Good, Camelot. Thank you for re-asking your question. So how far are we from beta 2? I'll let you know more after the next 90 days. And this is not a stall because I'm actually giving you a date. Over the next 90 days, one of the big things will have happened, we hope, which is a 24/3 server, right? And while it sounds simple, it's a very small amount of numbers. It isn't, right? It's a lot of actual numbers, and it's a lot of words, because that server, if it's running by itself unattended for 3 days, that's more than some live games have done. So, that's super important. If we get through that, 24/3, and we see it solid as hell, and that everything that, we thought was going to work, or almost everything would work the way we thought it was going to work, that will make us feel really good about, where we are schedule-wise. Because that, I've said before that we don't have any major technical challenges, as far as we know, certainly, as of today. And we talk about this stuff all the time. Now, could that present one? Sure. We don't think it will. It shouldn't. We have Ragnarok servers running. We've had CU servers running all day. So we don't think it's going to be a problem, but that's one of the only things that if I was going to look at and go, well, could something else pop up? That would certainly be one of the areas where it could be. So we'll see. Scott Florence, on launch, maybe even post depths, what's your favorite thing the engine will be able to accomplish while a particular server is lower pop? So, and this is actually a longer, it could be a long answer. So, given the time, I'll try not to. So in terms of, lower pop servers, one of the things that we have talked about in the past would be that it's not lower pop overall, it's just lower pop because people aren't there, of potentially doing things. I think we talked about this as well in the Kickstarter, to possibly spiff up the world for people by mixing more NPCs in there. But that's we'll have to see about. Certainly, there are things that we could talk about. I think we had at least 1 or 2 questions about this during the Kickstarter as well. Could we do anything interesting in terms of letting people switch over to a temporary server and play things like that. But that is not something that I've spent a lot of time thinking about since. But it is something that I'd like to see if we could find. The nice thing about these games is obviously they run 24/7. The not so nice things about these games is, especially RVR games, is what do you do when there is a much lower population due to the time of day? So I think we'll be open to some things. I've got some ideas. I know other people have got some ideas. We'll see. But that's certainly something to discuss a day where I'm not running into an hour. Papo, a lot of letters. Yes, Camelot is still coming out. Blood Mess. Do you have major anniversaries planned? 5, 10 year? Yeah, we'll want to do that. Also, we have seasonal aspects to the release game. Absolutely. That's something we talked about during the Kickstarter. It's something that our tech supports. It's something that the art team and I actually discussed this week. Force Chaos. I'm sure you want to get the game out more than we do. One person can only take so much crap. Well, yeah. I do want to get it out more than, probably anyone. But, like I've said before, I have zero intention of releasing something super bad, just to release it. Lortuine, well, that part's a deal breaker. Tell me what you mean, because I'm not sure what that is in reference to. Looking through comments, Jazzy, is there an article or video on this topic about the updates on the game? About the story, sorry. Not in particular. I mean, most of the story, and this is actually a question I answered for Dennis in the interview today. So much of the story of games like this is written by the players. I can lay out lots of lore, and frankly, based on the way Kara's writing, she should do it too. But at the end of the day, it's up to you folks. It really is up to you. We're going to lay out a world for you. We're going to give you the tools. We're going to get whatever you need, we hope, to have fun. But at the end of the day, a lot of the story is going to be your guys telling. So, B-Tide, fair question. When are you going to start processing people's refunds instead of just locking the threads? First of all, I don't lock thread. I haven't been locking threads. If the folks on the forums have been doing it, there's a reason, and I will do it as soon as we go back to the office. It is that simple. I know it's unfortunate, but I am not taking any risks. I've said this in every update in the last few weeks. Support is saying it. If I was going into the office, I would process refunds. It is simply I cannot process them from home unless I bring the PCs from home and put them here, and I am not going to do that. I'm not going to take a chance on anything happening to those PCs in transit, and I am not going to violate the security protocol I set up in terms of, stripping out what we spent so much time putting in to protect what little personal information we actually have about you folks. And I'm sorry, I apologize profusely for it. Anyone who's been waiting will be on a list, and if they decide to come back, I'll give them something, for coming back. But the bottom line is, a lot of companies during this time not only have delayed refunds, they've laid off people, they've done all sorts of bad things because it sucks and it's harder to do things, for most companies now than it was. We haven't turned off refunds. We haven't permanently, certainly. We haven't changed our policy. I mean, that's one reason we didn't change the policy, because I wanted to give you guys a reassurance that we were sticking to our word. Otherwise, we could just change the policy and be done with it. But we haven't. So all I'm asking in return is a little bit of patience so I don't have to take any additional risks and risk my wife's life. It is that simple. She is a breast cancer survivor. She's still on medication. when, I am not taking those chances. I am just not. And there is no way that going into the office all day, multiple days to do this, because it is a slow process, wouldn't put her in more danger. And it's really as simple as that. And I apologize profusely, but just look at the fact that we haven't changed the refund policies and assurance that they will be paid. Misurto, how do you feel about SEOC free-to-play implementation? Why do you hate it? I haven't talked about that or DAOC for lots and lots of reasons. DAOC is one of the, obviously, best games that I was ever a part of, but it was my idea, and it was my baby, just as it was, the team's baby, and anything that harms it is not something I am really happy with. I'll leave it at that. The man, bye. Sorry, you already left. But hey, you see on screen if you catch up, I'm saying goodbye. Jonas, how big is your focus on small scale skirmish? Oh, big focus, major focus. Look, I've said this also from the beginning. Small team focus is what, that's where most of the fun is going to be, because Zergs it can be a lot of fun if you just constantly keep trade and you like that sort of thing. But 8-man or 10-man or whatever your number is, if that's not great, then the RVR won't be great. And so, as we've also said from the beginning, it's why we do things, and we'll be doing more things in terms of making sure that the way to prosper in this game is not go zerging and keep trading. Odovic, will the 24/3 server have buildings switched on in it? Yes, that's the intent. Bumbo, with the addition of giants, will the character mass stats start having an impact on gameplay? We talked about that this week. Ning, expanding on the low population question, have you considered possibly using rewarding veil activity to push the lower population into a smaller area? Certainly, the only problem with that, of course, then it's forced on players, and then some people get upset. Bloodmus, scale your RVR bosses. Oh yeah, we've already talked about stuff like that. Look, during low pop, and this is one of the things that Overmind can handle. During low pop, the game will make adjustments. It has to. But the key is, can it make other adjustments? Can the gameplay change? Again, merge people even onto one place if they wanted to. Is there something we can do so that when you're coming in, for whatever reason, in an off hour, let's assume that you're not trying to do the equivalent of the relic raid. Is there something that you can do not at 4 in the morning or 3 in the morning, but in 2 in the afternoon, to make it more exciting for people who want more RVR action, but they're coming in at a deserted, or a quieter time? So, Riley, where do you think game live streaming is heading? Good question. So, look, Mixer, that was going to fail right from the beginning, unfortunately. When we saw the announcement and, what was it, 10 million to Ninja, I wasn't confident that that was going to succeed. Game streaming is here. Game streaming is going to stay for a while, I imagine. I don't see any end of days for it. I do think it's going to evolve. I think, whether it's some of the issues, obviously, with toxic communities or toxic streamers, or the issue this week, unfortunately, of harassment, I think that, things have to change. But it's really up to you folks. If people continue to enjoy watching people stream games, then it's going to keep going. So, I don't know, since I don't have anyone that young in the house, how the youngest generation feels if, like, their older brothers and sisters that game streaming is cool. So they're going to be the ones who are going to be, dictating on this one. Strike, yeah, I just talked about that. Dakin, I want the game to be quality game more than I want it now, and that's what we're doing. Oh, we're doing. I was joking about having to work with the Builders Brigade. Yeah, that was good. Yeah, I saw that and I was like, oh shit, what did I say? Yep, strike your question. Slightly snide question. That's okay. Can you folks up the cap on the number of abilities someday soon? Sure, absolutely. ICXC just logged on. When will the NBA be lifted for non-backers to view off YouTube? Hopefully in the next, well, almost definitely in the next 90 days. The thing I'm waiting for, as I've said earlier in the stream, is having the 24/3 server up. We might allow people to stream parts of that if we don't get something that we can run 24/3. But I expect with the Giants and other things going in and the polish and the rendering improvements, that will be good. Caliber, is it still possible to increase your backer level? Oh yeah, you can. The store is open. We haven't changed it. We are updating right now the tech behind it. But yeah, of course you can still upgrade. Whether it doesn't matter what your current tier is. Whether you're a founder or a builder, either one. Zubai, oh no. Oh, I am so sorry. He's saying his father has complications from COVID and chemo, so yeah, don't do that. Yeah. Oh, my best wishes to him. Absolutely. My best wishes. And yeah, I'm not going to do it. Look, it's meant that I've had to spend my time, talking to people about it and, get a threat every so often. The bottom line is, like I said, we're living in tougher times, and it's, I'm not going to take that risk. We're just not. If Jan and I were healthier, and especially in Jan's case, or we were both younger, it might be a different story. But not a chance. Let's see, scrolling down. Hey, Zach. Hey, MJ. Are there plans for Stealthers and the solid solo play PvP system? Yes, there are indeed. As a matter of fact, the class of scouts that we're working on ahead of time, that was supposed to be an extender, pack, is a good sign that we actually do care about Stealthers and solo play, because that's what the scouts are for. So thank you for that question. Brood, what will the group sizes, raid size? That's up to you folks. Obviously, if you've seen our warband system, you can put together a whole lot of group. A lot of players in your groups. So that'll be up to you folks. Mark from Dizzy Stream in Classic Dark Age. You might not even get an item for 4 to 6 levels when starting out. Are there plans for a smooth item acquisition system in CU? Beating bandits and wolf pups naked isn't fun. Yep. Thank you for that flashback. Hang on. So, yeah, I mean, look, the system is going to be, as I've said many times, totally predicated on crafters. If the crafters are crafting, then you'll be able to have a smooth system. We've also said, and this is no news, that if there aren't enough crafters in the system, the king will allow people to buy items. We don't want that to happen, obviously, but it would be kind of silly of us, I've seen games do that, to say they're crafter-based and then there are no crafters and then there's no immediate solution. And that's doom, absolute doom. So, yes, we will make sure that there are enough items, if there aren't, because the game can track sales, obviously. And if they're not being made for whatever reason, obviously we have to see why more people are crafting, but we'll just make them available for earning through deeds from the king. Ning, have you considered doing something to the war similar to the war's trophy system? Sure, of course. Scott, Zergs may be a fun thing to observe when they are obliterated by veil storms. Couldn't agree more. Mazurto, thanks for the response. You're welcome. The AOC will always hold a special place in my heart. Yep, it was a great game made by a great team, and I always say that it's still running, obviously, albeit slightly differently. But look, it was a hell of a game. Is a hell of a game, and no one has topped it yet in terms of getting the feel for RVR the way, even though obviously Elder Scrolls borrowed a bunch from it, getting it to feel the way old Dayoc did. Oldovic asking, can we crawl possibly in this game? Sure, that might be necessary if we go, especially obviously giants and Lucapan size housing. Strike, hindsight is 2020, but have you seen an engine that could work for CU by now? Nope. Neither is anybody else. And I say that with no, false hubris, and obviously a bit of disappointment, because, at least if somebody else had done an engine that can do what ours does, we could have used it. Because certainly if that had happened 4 years ago, we would have just switched course. The bottom line is that it's just not there. I mean, especially on the server side. The stuff we're doing, whether it's, the block-based buildings or server on the physics, all of these things, lots and lots of people stress out servers, and it's not like there's one on the shelf. And I know, if you look back and you go in 2013, I don't think any of us thought it would take this long. And frankly, the other people who started it around the same time that we have, for example, have not gotten anywhere in terms of making that kind of an engine. And if you look at the folks in Improbable, that's a hell of a lot of money they got, and they haven't been able to deliver on what we've delivered on. And it's not like we started that much ahead of them. So, one can make an argument that, possibly you could hook up the latest version of Unreal and have a bigger battle than you could with an older Unreal, and you'd probably be correct in that. But still couldn't do what we can do now. So, again, if I thought that, I could switch to an engine today that could do what we could do and more, I would do it. It would suck, but we would do it because the end goal was to get a game out and not to build the engine. We built the engine so we can make the game. And as you know from playing in the tests, we've, look at what we can do. Look at the 24 by 3 server when it comes out as an example of that, assuming it goes well. Cowdex, how persistent will the 24 be by? God, sorry guys. We're going to wrap up at 5:30 because 2.5 hours straight almost of talking. Plus I had the meeting before the interview. So how persistent will the 24 by 3 server be? Will the building ownership be the same on Friday morning as we left it on Sunday night? Don't know. Resets will happen, obviously. They have to. And resets, whether it's resetting just to get a fresh, start, but also when we update and have to wipe characters. So, we've said that right from the beginning. That will be wipe. What was the exact phrase? Wipe early and often. I'm trying to remember what we said. It's been a while, but I think it was wipe early and often. So, TP87, would it be possible to set up a refund form and do a quick video update that is locked for refunders only? Well, no, not really. So the reason being is in order to do that, I would have to take everyone's email address from their emails and then access their accounts and then set up their permissions with new permissions on the forum for that forum only. It'd be a lot of work and probably not worth the effort, because I'm hoping if these numbers in Virginia can keep going down, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that, you know, I could be in next week maybe and start. I'm just waiting for the data here in Virginia to support going in. Now, could we have a refund forum where people can, you know, just talk about it? Sure. I mean, I could have the guys set that up, but it's going to end up being a lot of people yelling, and I don't blame them. I understand, you know, but the fact is, Corona and, you know, Corona, and the fact again, we are paying them still 7 years out. So, you know, I can understand people being impatient. But I've been reading lots of stories lately about, for example, airlines not paying refunds when they said they would, not within 30 days, 90 days, 6 months in some cases, in a lot of cases. So we're going to be doing it. We promised we would, you know, that once the studio reopened, we would do it. And so, you know, we're going to do it. I just asked for people just to be a little patient. You know, we extended the refund policy way longer than any other, you know, game that I know of in development. We don't ask you to jump through hoops. We just ask for one, you know, 2 bits of information. We don't need a reason. We don't need a backstory. You know, we don't ask you to change your mind constantly. We just send out a form email asking, you know, for the transaction ID and a couple other things so we can compare it, and that's it. And then we do the refund, you know, so. JP, well, thank you. Yeah, look, starting, it's hard. It's why a lot of games have failed. You know, kick starting a game and an engine even harder. And I wish, I do. I can't even tell you how much happier I would have been if in 2013, you know, Andrew had been able to say there was an engine that could do what we could do. But it hasn't happened. It just hasn't. And for all the people who want to hate on us, it's like, fine, show me a game that has done what we say we can do. And the answer is it doesn't exist yet. It might, but it doesn't exist yet. So, you know, until that happens, you know, we're still, you know, just doing our thing. Let's see. Bumble, when is the new store going public? Don't know. And again, it's not, for you guys, it may not even be much of a change. I don't even know what we've talked about, you know, in terms of any graphical changes, because I'm not looking to sell a lot more tiers. But it's all tech, because it needed to be updated because it was old. Joshua M. Wolf, any talk of using Realm Quest to make unpopular area more used? Oh, sure. You know, look, again, the whole idea is to make the world feel living enough that even in the downtimes, that players can find a way to get together and beat the snot out of each other. I mean, that's why you're playing this game. That's why you're not playing, you know, a game like WoW, you know, with great PvE. You're playing this game to fight other players or to craft. Crafters I can take care of really easily during the downtimes. It's what we need to do for the RVR, you know, combatants. That's the real challenge. Javil, hey. Oh, thank you. He's saying nice things and wants more wants more items that builders can place in the game. I agree. YOLOs. So when we get into the 24x3 server during this next 90 days, it will be open on the weekend, Friday through Sunday. And if that all goes well, we may run it during the week as well. Strike JK, one of the great understatements of all time. I know the schedule is packed right now, but any chance we get a standardized performance test scenario, like a camera moving on rails, would be awesome to check performance between builds and hardware. You're absolutely right. It would be great, but I don't know, how much tech would be involved on that. Drukin99, looking forward when races are added. What are your thoughts on allowing a race swap, be it timed or purchased? The odds are I'll be against it unless there is a reason, in the sense of we screwed up and then made your class/race either unavailable or we nerfed it to death in general. That I'm not a fan of, hey, you can just swap races. Combat Stack would love your thoughts on Death of Wrath of Heroes. Such a good game. No comment. Scott Florence, looking forward to Crafters being tested. Yeah, me too. Scrolling. Have you hydrated over the last 30 minutes? Yeah, about half my coffee. Cowardice, resets are fine. Just wondering. Oh, I know. The sketch it. What point would you consider cutting your losses with Cube and players making custom structures? So I don't think we have any losses to cut on Cube, certainly. You can argue about the engine in general, but Cube, for the amount of time we've spent on it over the last few years, I think it's actually getting into good shape. No intention of changing that. Rowix, hey Mark, the animations still feel clumsy. When will the gameplay feel more like a game? Well, I don't agree with you 100%. I think the animations, like everything else in the game, can always be improved. I think that we still need to find the right balance in terms of speed of movement. One of the things about playing both Ragnarok and CU as I do is that it's a really interesting comparison between the two of them. So, that's something that we're going to continue to talk about. Scott Farnes, refund form, that's Reddit, right? Yeah, pretty much. Mike Green, good evening. Good evening to you as well. Still at work. We'll have to watch this later. Just out of curiosity, will there be a PvP server like Modred? Yes, indeed. That's up to you folks. If there's enough people, then we will do it. Desolus, comparing yourselves to the failings of other companies isn't a great look, to be honest. Well, it is when the question is, would I switch to a new engine? And so if a comparison that's a question that requires that kind of an answer. If people are saying on one hand that we haven't made progress and there are other things we could do, then I have to compare it to other companies, because there's a great tendency, especially in forums or in comments, to make statements that are quite negative without any backing. Or things like, oh, well, you should have been done by now. Well, that's your opinion, right? And I'm not saying you. I'm just saying in general, Desolus. And if the opinion is that, well, we should have been faster, or we should have been using another engine, or this stuff isn't hard, then you have to compare yourself to other people, because if you don't, then there is no context for it, right? So if somebody says to us, hey, why have you taken so long? Well, I could give the reasons as I have, but in a vacuum, that doesn't mean anything. On the other hand, where I could say, look, these are not easy problems to solve. If it was, then we would be wrong in what we're doing. And if there were other solutions, then we should be looking at them. So that's my comparison. It's not anything personal. But it's the same thing when, you compare anything in life. If you're thinking of which coffee brand, you think of other brands. You've tried this, and I like this one better. It's not a personal comment to any, regarding any member of the team or to the CEO or anything like that. But it is the fact that we are trying to solve hard problems. And we have. And we're doing it really well overall. But they're hard. And that's the only way to judge how hard it is unless you're an engineer, really, and understand the complexity. And if you are, or if anyone is, well, then they do know that when I say, well, putting all physics on the servers is something that's not done in almost any MMO, and I mean all physics, or things like having a destructible building with 9 million blocks, for example, and all the physics for that is also handled on the server. Obviously the opposite of Minecraft, which doesn't have a real physics system. So that's the comparison. So, you may not think it isn't a great look, but it is when I am trying to answer a question, which is asking about, other engines, or why are things taking so long. So, Gachi. Hi. Ning, let's see. Okay. Okay, 5-minute warning on this. Ningo, will any classes have unique class mechanics or systems? Well, if you mean unique only to a class and not to the trio, that's possible, but certainly we're going to try to keep within the trio's, setup. They don't have to be the same. They can be similar, but some could be different. It really depends how things work out. But remember, again, this is a rock, paper, scissors game. And so if we have a stealther on one realm and a stealth on another realm, and stealth on another one, if they're all using very different mechanics, then how they balance out within the RPS becomes even more complicated. So keep that in mind. Find the beast. Uniqueness is not necessarily a selling point. You're absolutely correct. Which is why I've tried to focus, and the team has been focusing on things that are not just for uniqueness' sake, but for the sake of better gameplay. And so, again, physics on the server, so you can't cheat unless you can hack the server. Be able to have large-scale battles and network them with a good frame rate, stuff like that. So you're right. Uniqueness in and of itself is not necessarily a great selling point. But when it's unique because it's hard to do, well, that makes, for, we hope, a good experience. Kisik, has been a decision either moving forward or scrapping the multiple individual health bars for body parts. I believe we scrapped that. Lortuine, what would happen in your ideal game session 3 months after launch? Well, it depends on who you are, right? If you're a crafter, you're happily doing some crafting. Hopefully you go into the depths if your side has taken control of it. If you're a combatant, you're doing a lot of raiding. So, really kind of simple. Gavin, in a perfect world with no COVID, what is the rough amount of time needed to get the game to launch? I don't know. Honestly, and the reason why I don't know is, does that assume I can hire more people? Does that assume I can, get the outsourced art that we want to get, for things like Cube? So you have more, things you can build and put, into them. So the answer is, it really depends on scope. We're trying to keep the scope down, but on the other hand, we're pulling stuff in. So like I've been saying, let's get through the next 90 days and see where we are on the 24x3 server. Scott Florence, what's your main thing you are personally looking forward to over the next 90 days? 24x3. 24x3. I want, God. I want it up and running. I really do. Combat sack. Now that's a good bit of snark. I like that. What's more likely, a Biden presidency in 2021 or your game launching? Well played. Ah, I love it. I love it. That's great. That's great. Now, what do I think is more likely? Um, I'll answer it because I think that's really good. And as always, I always tell people a good bit of snide or snark I love. Congratulations. Um, I know what I'd want it to be, but I'm also, as you can imagine, um, I try to keep politics, especially about any individual um, or even either side, out of questions, which is why it's a good, clever question. What I'll say without, talking about, even Mr. Biden, or President Trump or the Democrats or Republicans, I will say that it is certainly 2021 for CU is something that we constantly talk about at the studio, and not in a negative way. So that's all I'll say. I hope so, Caladex. I really do. Look, there's nobody, like I said, who wants it up and running, more than I do, more than the investors, because investors are just investors. I'm investors. I'm part of the investors as well as I am invested, and I put a lot of time, into the game, a lot of effort into the game. We want it running, but it's got to run the right way. And the good news is, and there's a lot of good news, is that, again, look at the shift in our updates. How we are doing more, gameplay things than just tech things. You don't see, you know, um, everything full of just Linuxification or ability refactor or any of that. I'm looking at the list now again, and it is one after another, after another, after another of gameplay and fun. So, that makes me really happy. The fact that I felt confident enough to sign off on the extenders, for the classes should give you, a good sense of where we're doing, how we're doing. All right. Well, with that, since it's 5:30 and now I've been talking 3.5 hours almost solidly, I am going to say what I always say. So, as usual, and always, and forever, we thank you, backers, for your support. We'll thank you for your patience. Please stay safe and uninfected, and stay kind. It's a tough world we are living in right now, and there's a lot of anger in it. And if we can all be at least a little kinder to each other while still taking the obviously super important and morally acceptable paths without a lot of hate, that would be great. We got to get through this. We got to get through everything that's surrounding us, and it's not easy. It's not easy for any of us. So, please, again, if possible, stay kind and really stay safe, and try to stay uninfected, because as Zubai said, and other people have come in stream have said, and I can tell you as well, this thing is a beast, and it can affect you even if you're younger or not so young very badly. So no matter what you think about wearing masks, what you think about social distancing, please be careful. Please be very careful. So look, I will hopefully see you folks on Zubai. Yeah, we have tons of them. Masks. Hopefully I'll see you this weekend if we can have a test of, CU. And that's it. All right. So, XVIM, yeah, void melee range. Exactly. We should get a shirt made up like that for gamers. because they would get it. Ralph, I missed it. What was the gist? The gist was 20 plus items on the update, 90-day plan laid out, and then just a lot of questions. So there will be updates going out today with the newsletter as well if you're in stream now and have missed it. And I'll see you guys. Have a good week. Stay safe. And again, hopefully I'll see you in a test. See ya.